We're talking to Major Raymer and Mr. MServais, and the topic is the crisis at the Salvation Army. And of course, Major Raymer, before we had our second commercial break, we promised that we would give you an opportunity to talk about some aspects of the Salvation Army. And we recognize that you're relatively new here, but we also know that, as you indicated earlier, that you've had many, many posts in the Salvation Army. What do you find that's somewhat different in your new assignments than, or might be comparable in your new assignments with what you've been accustomed to up until now?
Well, let me first say that it took me, I guess, maybe 2 full days. I mean, hitting it hard to go around and actually see what the Army is doing in the Nashville area, to meet the employees, to meet the volunteers, to actually see what's going on inside of each of the facilities. And I think the thing that sticks out in my mind the most was going into one of the two daycare programs that are housed at the Salvation Army, and having the 3-year-olds, and I mean, talk about being bombarded. I mean, every one of them wanted to get a hug, and that will always be a great memory for me. No matter how long I'm in Nashville, that's going to be at least in the top 10 to see the enthusiasm. And to me, I'm convinced that's really what we're all about, because that program alone gives the parents an opportunity to be able to become productive, active citizens in Nashville. As programs go, all that to say that in all the towns that I've been in, and I've been involved, at least indirectly, in large areas, being in Dallas and even in Baltimore, I can honestly say to you that this is probably one of the most comprehensive programs here in the southern part of the United States that the Salvation Army is involved in, because it literally has a program from the cradle to the grave for everybody and everybody in between. Some involvement with the Army, some type of program, some type of offering. And of course, all of that, at the crux of that, in the center of that, is our main thrust, as I've indicated before. We make no bones about the fact that who we stand for, and of course that's the Lord Jesus Christ. And in everything we do, He has the preeminence, and He is the one that is shown through all of that, even through the simplest cold cup of water. And so that's really our philosophy. That's really what we're about in meeting the needs. That cup of water takes all kinds of forms, as we've already indicated, just by what Mike said before the last break. And we're very proud of that, and we are very comfortable in that area. It does make it difficult, though, as part of this, the title of the show today, In Crisis, when we have to worry about where the next dollar is going to come from to keep that kind of a program operating, which is needed, desperately needed in the Nashville area.
You think, MServais, I think that he's indicated, and I think that that was essentially what was indicated when I read that there is a tremendous cutback. You're cutting back in etc. But now, is there anything that you can say to perhaps the Nashville community over the last 6 minutes that we have here that could perhaps make people much more aware of the needs that you have? Because it seems that you're doing tremendous work. You're touching many, many lives, but certainly you can't continue to do that when you're cutting back staff and et cetera, and et cetera. What can you say that you've been saying over the last many years that you've been involved with this organization? What can you say to people to make them be more conscious of your needs?
First of all, please, we would like to increase the consciousness, the awareness level of the Army and its need and our positioning in the community in terms of helping those with the least. But understanding that the Army's crisis, economic crisis right now, is a reflection, it's a mirror effect of what's going on with the economy. It's just that the folks who are being laid off, many of those fall completely off the ladder and hit ground zero, if you will. And I don't mean that irreverently at all, because every family is a reverent piece of work by God. And the Salvation Army intends in this community, as well as around the world, 110 countries, our mission locally especially is to extend a resourceful hand to every family that wants one, and give it assistance so that it can lift itself from crisis to independence again, and then it can run on its own. So we are a welfare reform agency that's Christ-centered, and the current economic crisis that you read about in the paper started with Angel Tree last year. The folks in Nashville purchased $1 million less than the previous year in Angel Tree gifts. So we've got to get the folks' confidence level back up, but of course they got to have more money too. Everybody that works for a living's got to have a little bit more discretionary income in order to help us. But we urge them to do that in this coming Christmas. Of course, anybody that's got some cash at this point, share it with us, because we have great need for it. And our Christian stewardship principles and our tradition and reputation will not allow us to go into the next fiscal year with a deficit. It's not permissible. So we will have to resolve this in a number of different ways. The way we want desperately is for the community to help us balance that budget as soon as possible. And then we don't want another Christmas problem. And please know that we're not talking about the North Pole. We love the idea of Santa Claus, but this is about underwear and socks and groceries and utility bills, okay?
And so when we see this year, people, excuse me, people out ringing bells and et cetera,
yes, sir.
We ought to become more conscious of the fact that you're involved with more than ringing bells, that you have behind those bells a large number of services that you have to provide, and just coming by and dropping a nickel or dime into that bucket might help, but it really doesn't get to the core of what you need. You need a lot of money. Is that what you're saying?
If the nickel and dime are precious,
Most certainly.
and Jesus will bless them.
And they add up.
So keep it up. If that's all you've got, if that's your mite, if that's the widow's mite, the Lord will bless that, whatever it is. So, but we ask that you give sacrificially to the Salvation Army.
But you do believe that there are some individuals who are watching this show this morning who have the financial wherewithal to do some great things for the Salvation Army this morning. Is that what we do? You believe that? Is that what we're saying? And
they know who they are, and we love them. And we don't have to even know their names. But we believe that if we commit our way to the Lord and trust in Him, He will make our righteousness shine like the dawn, and our cause like the noonday sun.
That's right.
We believe in that as the psalmist wrote it, and we're going to follow through on that belief. And faith in this community is very unusual. Nashville is a very generous community.
That's what we've heard in reference to not all of the social welfare kinds of shows that we've had. People often say that the people in Nashville are very, very generous in terms of their giving and et cetera. And that's why I was somewhat surprised that you've fallen on the kind of problems that you're having here in this great city of Nashville, Tennessee.
Our city, as well as all others, got overcome with. I mean, there's a series of crises that hit this country, and one of those was economic, and we're going to pull out of that. And one of the ways we're going to pull out of it is with the confidence to give sacrificially, so that those at the very bottom of the ladder don't get too hungry and too tired and too depressed.
And so, Major, what you're saying is that you can't provide everything, but there's a basic kind of need that you feel as the area commander that you have to fulfill, and the best way to fulfill that is to have more resources, whether volunteer or whatever.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, over the last minute and a half that we have here, MServais and Major Raymer, let's give the two of you an opportunity to make some final statements, starting with you, MServais.
We love our work because it's a ministry, and because it's extremely personal. Sometimes it's more difficult to talk about that than other times. But just know that we are founded in the need of others and not our needs. And we need as much help as the community can offer at this time.
Very good. And of course, Major Raymer, let's give you an opportunity to make the final statement and speak to the people of Nashville, people that you will know quite well over the next many, many months.
Well, I echo what Mike just said. We're in love with our work, and I think that's because of the love that Christ has given us. I just want to say thank you to Nashville for its past support of the Salvation Army, and for what they're doing right now, even during this show for the Salvation Army, and what they're going to do in the future for us. We thank God for every single person who helps the Army, because we believe it does further our mission and it does further the kingdom of heaven.
Very good. And of course, let me thank the two of you for coming by and giving us that excellent information, Mr. Major Raymer and MServais, dealing with the Salvation Army. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.